Hello, welcome back. It's summer. It's time for vacations, hanging out at the lake, all kinds of fun things to do.
Yeah, as long as the humidity clears up and
If the weather cooperates, if it's
does,
not
yeah,
a sudden downpour, that's always good.
yeah, it's been quite humid and rainy lately.
It's been less than ideal, I think. But it can be hard to remember at times because it seems so normal to us that live here. But Ringwood, with its lakes, the state parks, the amazing hiking trails, and general beauty, it's the type of place people think of as a vacation getaway. But for people who may want to come here on vacation or to spend time with their family members who live here, their options might be a bit limited because of the 2021 ban on Airbnbs and short-term rentals overall here in Ringwood.
A little context is needed here. So
Yeah.
The ban is on all short-term rentals, which means a rental of less than 30 days. The ban was triggered by a series of events that were held at an Airbnb on McGee Road here in Ringwood. And while the house was rented out on Airbnb, it wasn't exactly a traditional Airbnb situation.
all.
They were holding ticketed events sold via Eventbrite, and the house was used essentially as a party house.
And we do want to emphasize that the situation on McGee Road needed to be addressed in some way. What they were going through, what the people who lived on that road were experiencing was not acceptable. And
No,
it
the
needed to be
noise and the
addressed.
trash and all that.
Yeah,
it's
it was
it's
not
cool.
okay. We are in no way saying the residents of McGee Road should be just penalized in some way for that, and they should not have had to live with this party house existing as it was.
However, the council did not see the events on McGee Road as a series of isolated events or took measures to prevent other homes from becoming party venues in town. Instead, they voted on a blanket ban on short-term rentals and did so without spending substantial time or energy crafting a plan, nor letting the public know that such a ban was on the table. Short-term rentals, especially over the past 10 years or so, have become an increasingly popular, convenient, and affordable way for folks to travel. And we at Really Ringwood have used Airbnbs many times.
Many times.
They allow people to find places to rent in areas that aren't well served with hotels or motels, and allow homeowners an additional revenue stream by simply renting out their home when they aren't there.
Not only that, but short-term rentals are viable options for folks who want to visit family or their friends, but want their own space. Or people who have to travel to an area for business for a couple of weeks. Painting all short-term rentals as invitations to wild parties greatly mischaracterizes what they're actually being used for. The fact that it took until 2021 for there to be such a serious issue with a short-term rental that it came to the attention of the council shows that there aren't natural lightning rods for bad behavior. While that particular company has been around since 2008, people were renting out their homes in various other ways for years and years beyond then.
But of course, there are downsides and risks to short-term rentals
Sure.
for the renters, for the owners, and the neighbors of the rentals.
Yeah.
There's no way to guarantee a perfect Airbnb situation from any angle, but there are lots of things that communities can do to mitigate the risk of Airbnb rentals.
And one of the points that was raised at the council meetings ahead of the ban was that the potential impact on the lake communities. So, obviously, yes, the lakes would be a natural place for people to want to rent, and since the lakes have their own bylaws and regulations, they could handle the situation in any number of ways.
But since the lakes are organized into property owners associations, it seems likely that there would be folks who would rent their properties on Airbnb and similar sites. It's understandable that the lakes wouldn't want people who aren't members using the tags or the boats of the owners without, regulation of some kind. So there could be modifications to the guest passes to allow renters to gain lake access without using a resident's credentials. The lakes could use this opportunity as money-making for them as well.
Yeah,
my family recently rented an Airbnb in a community that's not dissimilar to many of the ones here in Ringwood, and part of the fee was used directly to go to the Property Owners Association for use of the pools and the lakes in the complex.
That makes
so
sense.
these lake associations could actually make a little bit of money
Yeah.
if people were renting out their homes on Airbnb or VRBO or any other short-term rental site.
Now, obviously, there's work to be done in this situation. So, some towns in our area, like Ringwood, have banned short-term rentals completely. Others have successfully put together plans for short-term rentals that protect the borough, the homeowner, and the renter. We don't have to look far for an example of this done well. West Milford, for example, put a lot of time and effort into their plan, which seems to just be a comprehensive plan and fair to everyone involved. To start, the plan requires homeowners to pay a $500 permit yearly for the right to list their home on Airbnb or VRBO or any other short-term rental site. It required the property to have a manager of some sort who can be reached within 24 hours for any issues on the town side, as well as fire and health inspections for the properties, and required informing any housing organizations such as condo associations or a lake association that you're listing your home on such a site.
Other towns require additional insurance, minimum day requirements, requiring the properties to be primary residences, banning companies from purchasing rental properties to add to their portfolios, or other safeguards to ensure that the rentals are positives for its residents.
So reasonable restrictions and conditions that make the rental available to people without it being a problem.
Exactly. It seems like an addendum based on primary residences would solve a lot of the issues that short-term rentals seem to present. For instance, if the home being rented out is where the owner lives most of the time, they're going to be pickier about who they rent to and be more diligent about keeping the grounds clean and the neighbors happy.
Absolutely.
But beyond that, it would also help keep companies from buying up homes in Ringwood simply for rental purposes. It would be hard to imagine situations like the McGee Road situation if those homes were primary residences.
Instead of instituting a blanket ban, which impacts the people who were collecting income from their properties and limits the opportunities for residents to get the full value out of their home, a considered plan like West Milford allows the town to control the situation. It also allows them to protect themselves and the homeowners, and even make some money off of the rentals. When West Milford's plan was enacted, there were 188 short-term rentals listed for the town. At $500 a house, that's $94,000 a year for the borough. Ringwood likely wouldn't have as many homes registered, but even if it were as few as 25 homes, that's still the fiscal equivalent of an extra homeowner paying property taxes for the year. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, and that doesn't even factor in all the money that we pumped into the local economy by folks visiting Ringwood.
That's a good point. Absolutely.
Yeah, our restaurants and shops would benefit from the influx of visitors. And we have an episode planned down the road about Ringwood's lack of ecotourism initiatives, and this sort of goes hand in hand with that.
Kind of does.
Yeah.
Now, if you've listened to this and you still think that the short-term rental ban is smart, we have a question. How do you enforce this? For something like this to work, people need to essentially be spying on their neighbors. Whether you're looking on Airbnb or VRBO for properties in town to rent and then reporting them, or taking note of the different cars in your neighbors' driveways, this sort of ordinance is essentially asking neighbors to be suspicious of each other.
If the family next door welcomes a new baby and a relative stays for a few weeks to help out, are you going to report them to the town in case they're kicking in for groceries and utilities?
Ridiculous.
If a new car shows up across the street, are you going to ask if they've updated their ride or just presume that they're renting out their basement?
What is the council asking us to do?
If you go away for a weekend, but your college roommate stays at your place as they visit local family, will your neighbors get suspicious?
Sounds like it.
It may be.
Sounds like you're going to be reported by someone.
Proving any of these violations without printing out the Airbnb listing will be difficult and will make Ringwood a more suspicious, less trusting community. Is that what we really want?
That's not what I want.
Me neither.
A well-executed short-term rental plan could be a financial boon for the town, the lake associations, and the property owners in the town. What better way to attract people and prospective homeowners to our town than to invite them to stay a few nights?
Yeah, I mean, I know we have friends who come to visit in Ringwood and fall in love with the place.
Exactly.
And if there was a way for people to come and stay for a few days, you might even get some new residents out of the deal.
Yeah, seems like no negative at all to just inviting people, having some sort of comprehensive, logical restrictions on the naysayers or the people that are causing problems, but there's a way to do it in a good way.
Yes, and so we hope that if this issue is brought up again, that people will be willing to argue on behalf of short-term rentals. And we hope that in general, the council, whether as currently constructed or in the future, will be better about reaching out to the community for input on things like this, because this is not the only thing that has passed without comprehensive conversation with the community.
And so as we're thinking about the election in November and thinking about who to vote for, make sure that you are carefully scrutinizing the candidates and what they stand for and what they're going to bring to the council in future decision-making discussions.
Well, that's it for this time. We hope that you don't get busted by your neighbors for having friends over, presumably they're renting your house out, and we'll talk to you guys soon.